Welcome to episode 31 of the Sports Geek podcast. On today's episode, we preview 2014. Happy New Year. We talk to a Finnish startup hitting it big in New York City. And in the first in our seat partner profile series, we chat with Store Financial. And I wrap up the pink test.
Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast, the podcast built for the sports digital marketer. And now, here's your host, who remembers using network news to get NBA scores, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. Yeah, I do remember using network news to get NBA scores way back in the day. That's over 20 years ago. It used to be the quickest way to get an NBA score, or you could wait another 18 or so hours and get it in the newspaper. Happy New Year to everyone. It's 2014, a new year in the sports digital world. On this episode, I'll have a look forward into 2014 when I chat with Deb Spillane on ABC Grandstand and look at some of the issues that we're all going to face in 2014. Also, got a couple of interviews in this podcast. I catch up with Larry Bush from Store Financial in our first in the seat partner profile series. He talks about what they do and what they're looking to bring in the sports space and really shake up the loyalty market and also help sports teams better understand the buying habits and behaviours of their fans. And also catch up with a friend of mine from Finland, Heikki Ora from Uplause, and the fan engagement products that they've got for stadiums, and they're doing some really big things in New York at the minute. So we chat to Heikki later on in the show, but let's get stuck into it. Here's my chat with Debbie Spillane on ABC Grandstand.
But the regular at this time of your Saturday morning on Grandstand Digital Breakfast is the Sports Geek's Sean Callanan. Welcome, Sean. Nice to talk to you.
Good morning, Deb.
Now, you've decided that this is the appropriate time, as many people do, to make some predictions regarding social media in the year ahead. And I gather that a few people have been casting their mind to this. What are the predictions that take your fancy?
One of them, and we've spoken with Francis before, is the growing nature of the social networks and them trying to monetize, and the fact that they're now pushing for more advertising, which is really going to put a squeeze, especially on sports, as their reach on the networks like Facebook and Twitter, Instagram and the like, as they push for more advertising, it's going to be tougher and tougher to get attention with their fans. So I think really 2014, a lot of the sports teams are really going to focus on their content and really focus on their fans, which is a great result for fans. That means they'll be getting better content and more engaging content, but they won't be focused so much on the numbers. They won't be focused so much on we must have so many likes and so many followers. It's more on engaging your fans. So really diving in, responding to fans, engaging them on the platforms in a way that the platforms work, we'll see better results for them.
That sounds incredibly sensible.
It is incredibly sensible, but people have been sort of the first couple of years of social networks. They've always been blown away by the like numbers and the follow numbers, and our team's got more followers than your team, kind of stuff. Exactly, and it is good to celebrate those milestones of reaching those big numbers. But the main reason people are on social media is to be social, and it's becoming less of a thing, and it's becoming something that we all now do. And so it's just going to be a bit more integrated across everything that sports teams do. And just as a side note to that, I noticed that you mentioned in your email to us that you're working on with the Sydney Cricket Ground doing social media for the test that's on at the moment. Is this an indication again that they're looking for people that can show them a few more ideas, I guess, on how they can best utilise social media? Well, definitely, I think it's going to be a really big year for stadiums, because as they open up their networks, and the SCG, Allianz, MCG, ANZ Stadium, they're all getting upgrades from an infrastructure point of view. So fans will be able to use their phones from now on. So it really opens up the customer service side of stadiums, in that someone can simply tweet, "Hey, there's a bozo in my section. Can we get rid of him?" Or, we're out of beer, or or the other side of it from a positive point of view is how many shots the fans can now share. So there were so many shots from the SCG yesterday, shared on Instagram, shared on Twitter, people showing off, one, where they were and bragging that they were at the game, but also, showing off the new stand and how much they were enjoying the day. So the challenge for stadiums is to meet that expectation of one, service, but then also it's a really big opportunity for them to allow the fans to tell the story. And
there's also the very simple thing of like hooking up with friends that are at the game and finding out where they're sitting and where you can meet afterwards, that sort of thing. It is incredibly frustrating when I've been at games and got a text message even later on to tell me, I'll meet you at halftime, but because of the, sort of massive problems with the Wi-Fi services there, the message doesn't come until you're on your way home from the game.
Yeah, and that's been a worldwide problem. There's still stadiums around the world, like in Australia, that have that problem, but it's slowly getting better. And yeah, I saw some of the fans were actually tweeting in the internet speed with some of the new SCG networks. So they were pretty pleased, and just by the amount of information that was coming out of the stadium yesterday, I think you're only going to see more and more of that.
That's fantastic. Now, what about Google Glass and its adaptability or not for sporting settings?
Yeah, well, it's projected to be released sometime this year. So Google Glass, if you haven't seen someone wearing them, it's a small little computer that attaches to the glass, the headset, and you can effectively take photos from your own point of view straight away, hands-free. It makes taking photos a lot easier. We're interested to see, one, how that as a product gets used by sports teams. So as a sports team, you'll be able to, we may see athletes wearing it during practice, potentially, a tennis player heating up practice could be wearing Google Glass, and you can get that point of view and get that video from that perspective. So we can see some really great innovations from that side of thing. On the other side of the case is potentially we'll probably see an athlete of some sort using Google Glass and initially getting a lot of kudos for sharing their life. But as we've seen with missed tweets and inappropriate Facebook statuses late at night, we'll probably see some inappropriate photos from an athlete using Google Glass.
Oh, goody! I can't wait.
It could be a firestorm there.
Actually, it's funny, while you're talking, I know it's just sort of harking back, I guess, a little bit more to what we were just talking about before, that sporting bodies trying to use social media better. I've opened up a press release from the Brisbane International, the tennis tournament that's going on at the moment, and in amongst the details of the quotes from the players and, the results of matches, it's got tweet of the day. Thanks to everyone at Brisbane Tennis for their support this week. A great way to start 2014. Great platform to build on, from Samuel Groth, the Australian player, and they've put his Twitter handle on there. So, it is a sign. It's only a little thing, but I just haven't noticed a lot of that in press releases before.
It is really important for tennis, tennis tournaments and the Aussie Open are getting ready. The more that they amplify their athletes and the personalities, and it just helps extend the story. Tennis is a great example of, telling the story. You always have that Cinderella, and people are always clamouring for, who is this guy? What more can I know about them? And most of these players will have Twitter accounts and Facebook pages, and they'll be sharing their own behind-the-scenes story. So I think social, because it will become more the norm, I think traditional media, and things like press releases, will start naming the sources as the Twitter handles and those kind of things a little bit more freely, because it just creates a wider picture for the story.
Yes, it's nice to see them accept that it complements what they're doing, rather than, this is a threat, the players are going around us and dealing direct. Because there are a lot of people that have that feeling that, this is players sort of finding a way to deal direct with the public and cutting out the media people who are the middlemen. And this is an example of, obviously, that threat not being seen as valid by the organisers at the Brisbane International, which is great. And by the way, just as another side observation, I don't think I've had a chance to speak to you on this show before, but I find one of the best sporting events for watching Twitter while you're watching the event is some of the big tennis finals, because I'm always amazed how many of the big sports stars in the world are watching something like a Wimbledon final. And it's not just tennis players. You'll have a LeBron James tweeting about it, or, Graham Smith, the South African captain. And you sort of, I find that one of the most fascinating things, getting the perspective of other leading sportsmen looking at a Nadal or a Federer and commenting on, or a Djokovic, of course, and commenting on their performance.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's one of the good things. I mean, I think that's why Twitter really works from a live perspective. But then, when you are watching the stream, and then you do notice that sports from other, athletes from other sports are also commenting and following along, it just gives you that little bit more information about a sports star that you're following, and it just deepens that emotional engagement with that sports star. But it also definitely enhances the experience of you watching the game. And so that's the same with most sports that you're watching these time, and the summer of tennis will be exactly that as well.
Now, just quickly before I let you go, you're talking about stats and analysing sport being an important thing for the year ahead as well, improvements in that area. In what specific ways do you see that happening?
Well, I think things like Google Glass come from a sector called wearables. So I think more athletes will have these wearable devices that will be able to give us more stats. So even in tennis, there's some devices that they're looking at that they can put on rackets to better deliver racket speed and those kind of things. So from a viewer, some of that sports science stuff, GPS tracking, all of that will start being filtered back to the fan. And it won't be we don't need to share it because it's going to be an advantage for the opposition kind of thing. It will be in this infotainment type of space. And because things like sports fantasy and those kind of things, fans are just craving for more stats. And then from the business side of sports, as we're using more of these services, like using Wi-Fi and tweeting where we are, our location and those kind of things, sports teams and organisations and events will start getting a better and a clearer picture of what the sports fan is doing from a transactional point of view and a behavioural point of view. So again, hopefully that, from a sports fan point of view, we'll be able to see more services and better offers delivered to us because sports teams and organisations will better know their fans. So hopefully we'll see better ticket offers, better merchandise offers, those kind of things, because they'll have a better understanding of what we want.
All right, Sean Callanan, Sports Geek. Where can we find you on social media?
You can find me at Sean Callanan or at Sports Geek or sportsgeekhq.com on the internet.
Sign up for Sports Geek News at sportsgeekhq.com/sign up now.
So what do you think will be the big news and the big trends in 2014? Will you start using Google Glass as a way to create some unique content? Are you going to focus on your fans over focusing on Facebook stats? If you check out the Sports Geek Facebook page, I've had a few cracks at Facebook Insights recently. I don't trust them myself, so I would prefer to focus on the content and focus on the fans and the feedback you're getting from them. Now I'm going to chat to Larry Bush from Store Financial as part of our SEAT Partner Profile Series, where I'll chat with a few of the key partners and sponsors around the SEAT Conference, which will be in Miami this year in July. All the links in the show notes will be there for everything that we talk about in this interview. Larry comes from Store Financial, and they are in the loyalty game, in the gift card game. They've got their fingers in a few pies. Larry explains it better than I do right now. So here's my chat with Larry, and you'll learn a lot about the loyalty game. And now I want to introduce someone for our SEAT sponsor series from Store Financial. We've got Larry Bush, the VP of Sales and Marketing. Welcome to the Sports Geek Podcast.
Thanks, Sean.
Larry, one of the things at SEAT, and it has developed over the last couple of years, is the digital track, which I'm a part of, and also the CRM track. And one of the things in that space is always about getting more data and understanding the sports fan a little bit better, and also getting more sales leads. How does Store? You want to tell us a little bit about Store Financial and how it fits in that space?
So Store Financial's been around almost 11 years, and we're really a payments company. So where our foundation was really in the B2C space, supporting our shopping center clients with a gift card that could only be used within those confines. So if you take that same foundation and look at sports marketing, what they're trying to do is to say, how do I consolidate all of the interactions with a fan and grab information about that fan or a season ticket holder or partial season ticket holder into one area? And so with our technology, with our platform, we're able to say, I can put tickets, for instance, I could put those onto a card. And on that same card, I could have team promotional offers. I could do sponsor promotional offers. I could do loyalty earnings. So I could do earn and burn, working with a loyalty company. And then I could also do consumer funding, whether that is actual funds that are put onto the card or to tie that card to a fan's debit account so that if they have earnings that they want to spend over what they have on promotion, it would just tie into their debit account, all on the same platform.
So, one of the big discussions at SEAT at Kansas City, where Store Financial is based, was around the fan loyalty space that's still developing, and sports teams don't quite know, I guess, the initial returns from those kind of campaigns and those kind of systems, because they're still pretty much in their infancy, and they're really, loyalty is a long game. And I guess coming from a retail background and shopping centres, that's a market and a segment that has been doing the loyalty game for a long time. What kind of lessons do you take from the retail experience in the shopping centres to help the sports market to better understand that loyalty component and how it works?
So actually, Sean, my background is in the loyalty and promotion space. So I work for some of the larger loyalty companies in the U.S. And you're right, it is a long tail on that because you're making an investment to learn more about those people, how you segment them. So is your premier season ticket holders, are they different than your partial season ticket holders? Are they different from your fans? And do you treat them all the same way? Do you communicate the same way? And then how do I move someone through that value chain? How do I take a fan who may not be attending games, and how do I get them to attend one game? So how do I monetize seats that may not be used? Or how do I move somebody from a partial season to a full season? And especially in the loyalty space, if you're trying to generate loyalty where you only use activities that are inside a venue or limited, what happens is that you have to have enough velocity for the member to earn points that they can redeem and feel like they have something. So you can't have, I earned for performance over 2 years, and then I receive something that's a nominal value. I have to have something that's with a shorter term frequency that I know I got payback on my performance. So we can enable the loyalty companies to get outside of the venue, and if they wanted to blend in the sponsors that a team already has, how do I track those transactions that actually occur outside of the venue?
Now, we are talking loyalty, and really I want to be clear, you guys integrate with the loyalty products. You're not another loyalty system. So if a team has got a loyalty program that does those kind of things, your cards integrate with those systems, don't they?
That's exactly correct. We're more of a transaction processor. So we're not only a program manager, we're also the processor. So when the card is used, whether that's a virtual card or it's a physical card, we actually authorize the transaction. But we're not a loyalty company. And typically the loyalty companies have a loyalty management system where they'll take performance files, they calculate what the business rules are for that performance, they award points into a point bank somewhere, They have thresholds of how the points can be used and for what activities. So we don't do that. What we'll do is enable a loyalty company to monetize those point redemptions or to get more point earnings, to have more venues where you can earn points. But we're not the loyalty.
Yeah, and so that's where you can do those sponsored promotions and effectively, get a sports team fan. They can go to their local, Dunkin' Donuts, and every time that they're buying their coffee and their donut, they're earning points through that sponsor for their team, and building that affinity with the team. But also from a CRM point of view, you're building up that customer profile.
That's correct, because now we understand more about what the customer's doing. We're going to be able to share that back, what kinds of transactions. We can share it back with the loyalty company, whoever is doing the loyalty tracking and the rule structures, so that they have better information. Usually they lose on the earns on the burn side. They see the earn side, they don't see the burn side. And so we can help them with not only enabling them with more locations to earn and tracking those transactions, but also what happened when they actually did redeem for, what did they purchase. So it gives them more information about that profile on the fan or on the season ticket holder.
And do you want to tell me a little bit about the fan experience card that you guys have?
So we really started, when we started to go talk to some teams, we really thought that the play for Store Financial was in the gift card space. And it didn't take too many meetings before we figured out that gift card is a piece of it, but a very small piece. And the real interaction is, how do you capture all of the fan experiences onto one platform? So loyalty does a great job of that. But there are some that just want to be transactionally oriented. Maybe before I enter into a loyalty program, I just want to give my season ticket holders a promotional offer, or I want to send my fan base to one of our sponsors just to start that initial interaction. So it's building frequency before you build loyalty.
Okay, so you have that multiple products on offer. The gift card is a way to, again, connect with your fans and get that data and reward them, but then you can move to a full integrated solution with their ticketing and their merchandise offerings and their loyalty program for a more full-scale 360-degree view of everything that the customer's doing, yeah?
That's exactly correct. And we don't say that a client, that a team has to say, I need all of that. They may start with one piece that they need, and they may add another piece, or they may be farther along on in their development and say, I really need you to interface with our loyalty company that we already have in place.
And what are you seeing currently, talking to sports teams on the mix of how much they want to engage in the venue? And, do they need to do anything from a point of sale to activate your cards, and as opposed to outside the venue and, once the fan either leaves the stadium or engage the fan that never comes to the stadium?
So that's a good question. There are a couple of things there. Well, one of the things is that our platform does not require them to add any kind of hardware at their point of sale or any software. We actually ride the network rails. These are MasterCard rails. And because we do that, from the merchant's perspective, they don't have to do anything differently to accept our card. And as the processor, I can either accept or decline that transaction. So if it's not one of the merchant locations that is supposed to be in the network, then we will decline the transaction, so the card won't work. Where we really see this is that by not having to add point of sale hardware or software or ask them to do any programming, we can enable a sponsor to do a one-time event or a national promotion or a local promotion, and we can add or subtract virtual locations dynamically. So we can add them in for a weekend and then take them back out. Or for a loyalty program, if they wanted to add new merchants where they can now earn points That's easily done on our system. So we can add them into a merchant group. Where before you would have to do some kind of integration at a point of sale to be able to capture all that information.
Yeah, and I do think like we do work in the sports digital and the social media space, and we've played around with tools that reward fans for what they're doing on a social point of view, whether it be Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and those kind of things, with products like our digital cheer squad. But we've never been one to present a lot of rewards for that kind of action because there's no money attached to it. So I think one of the key benefits of what you can do with Store Financial is you can tie the rewards to actually cash coming in to either your sponsors or to the team through ticket sales or merchandise. And it's much easier to say we're going to reward fans with our loyalty program, signed jerseys, or allow them to claim prizes and merchandise in our store because you know that they've had this overall customer spend with your partners and with your team.
Yeah, even on a loyalty side, if you think about some of the loyalty companies where they have fulfillment becomes such a tough piece to do because if you're dealing with apparel, then you have colors and sizes, and you have to take an inventory position, or you have to drop ship, and you have returns. With this, you don't. So I could still, if the team has a team store, and you wanted where they already carry inventory, and you wanted that to be a redemption location, then I can set that up as a redemption location. And the loyalty company doesn't have to figure out how am I going to monetize the points and then fulfill some kind of merchandise. So they just don't have to do it, and they get all the tracking. So I can tell you exactly where it was used, whether it was used for concessions, or was it used at a gift store, or was it used at a sponsored location outside of the venue.
Yeah, I think that's a terrific thing. There is a little bit of, I guess, movement and in the market around those loyalty programs that there is a bit of a fear that fulfillment side of the business can become a bit of a headache, especially if your loyalty program completely blows up and then you're stuck with having to fulfill rewards and ship T-shirts, those kind of things. So it is good to have something that definitely has to be tied back to the dollars brought in for the team.
Right. The other thing is that let's say that you are trying to do fulfillment, and you have a change in logos, or you have new style merchandise, and you've taken a inventory position. You now have to get rid of that inventory. With a card, I can actually, even if I'm locking it down to a specific merchant location, if they're having clearance or sale, the fan can then take advantage of that. If they're of any kind of sale merchandise that's in there, they're just using that as a form of payment.
Well, thank you very much for the discussion today, Larry. I'm looking forward to catching up with you in July in Miami at SEAT 2014. This podcast will be up soon, and I'll talk to you between now and then.
Thanks, Sean. It was great talking to you.
Did you know Sports Geek Podcast has listeners in over 35 countries? Thank you for sharing.
Thanks again to Larry Bush from Store Financial for joining me on the podcast. I look forward to catching up with him and everyone at SEAT 2014 in Miami. They are one of the presenting partners at SEAT, and thank you again for Christine for including me in SEAT conference. I'm already looking forward to it. My next guest, who I hope actually will be at SEAT, we did discuss it after the interview, is someone I met over the internet a couple of years ago. He's from Finland. He's got a really great stadium activation tool that you can run on your scoreboard. And he's recently expanded into the US with installations in New York at Madison Square Garden and a few other stadiums around. So we talk about his product, Uplause. That's Applause with a U. Again, all the links will be in the show notes, sportsgeekhq.com/31. I want to welcome a friend of mine that I met via the internet a couple of years ago out of Finland from a company called Uplause with a U. Heikki Ora, Executive Vice President, Business Development and Marketing. Welcome to the Sports Geek Podcast.
Thank you, Sean. Pleasure to be here. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. We were just saying before we started the call, I was just checking my notes. I can't believe it was nearly 3 years ago in January 2011 when you first reached out to me when you were doing a bit of business development and looking at different markets and talked to me about Uplause. It's been a very quick 3 years for both of us.
I know. I can't believe either. It's been 3 years. I mean, it's amazing how time flies, and it's wow. It's just so much happening, and it's been so fun doing this. So actually, it's great to reconnect again.
So how? First of all, tell the podcast listeners a little bit about Uplause and how. Why on earth would an Australian and Finnish person be talking about sports technology and both talking about the US sports market? Do you want to tell us what Uplause is?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, I think why we're talking is there's an underlying trend which is happening in Finland, in Australia, USA, which is, of course, that the world is becoming more digital, more social. It's getting gamified. So I think that's the underlying reason why we are connecting here. But basically, we started Uplause a few years ago. I think it's been now roughly 4 years running. And the starting point was that we saw that there's a great opportunity to do something different in the live event space. And basically, of course, already 4 years ago, we were in the middle of Facebook, Twitter, social media revolution, and kind of saw that none of that is happening at the live events. It's not being gamified, and with our background working on the mobile gaming especially, but also on the telecom side, so we saw that there's a great opportunity to do something different within that space, and that's how we got started with the Uplause.
So your bit of your background, you come from a Nokia background, or Nokia for our people in the US, and the mobile sort of the gaming space. And do you want to do you want to give us a little bit of info of what Uplause is from a fan engagement stadium point of view?
Sure. Within Uplause, we got a couple of different products, but a primary product that we have is these voice-activated stadium games. So basically games that are played from the video boards using voice decibel meters as the joystick. So, if we talk about soccer, football, it could be a penalty kick where you power up the shot by making more noise. Or if we are talking about ice hockey, which is of course big in Finland, there's a slap shot game with the similar logic that the more noise the audience makes, the better chances of scoring. So that's the primary joystick of ours. This voice activation, basically allowing everybody in the stadium or arena to be part of the gaming experience. We have a software. We have a few microphones, and that is, of course, then hooked into the audiovisual system and into the video board, and it's a real game. It's not a video file, but it's a real game like you would play on any other gaming platform. So that's what we do. We also have a social media platform where we use. If we do it on Facebook, we use Facebook likes or comments as a way to create the interaction. It could be that with the we can get your, Sean, in your case, we would get your, beautiful profile picture and your name to appear on a fan gallery or something more, or, more evolved. But basically just these very simple things, lowest threshold to participate with the tweets, comments, or on the social media side.
Yeah, terrific. As I was checking out what you've been doing when I saw your last post on LinkedIn, I actually saw you did a launch and activated it with, I think it was Lexus at the Madison Square Garden, and I caught some of the video there. If you don't mind, I have a Sounds of the Game segment, and I'm actually going to use that as the sounds of the game, just to get a feel for, I guess, the fans absolutely going off while they're watching the cars race around on the big screen. What was it like seeing Uplause in action at a famed venue like Madison Square Garden?
Oh, it's a great honor to work with the Madison Square Garden, and we work with both New York Knicks and the Rangers and the Lexus. So it's of course the world's most famous arena. A lot of history, but also at the same time, always looking to do new things as well. So they are a great partner for us, and of course it's it's an amazing feeling to see our product there, as you see from the videos, crowd completely getting it, loving it. It's a fantastic feeling. It's only a start. I think there's so much more we can do, but I think it's just one of the great milestones that we have had during these years.
Well, you might have been lucky enough to catch up with a friend of mine at Madison Square Garden. Katie Panther is at MSG, and I regularly catch up with her at the SEEK conference. But she's done a great job in that with the renovation at Madison Square.
I think it's a fantastic, the new renovated. Hopefully everybody will get a chance at some point to see it. It's amazing arena.
The other question I had, and I think it's a point when we initially had a discussion 3 years ago, is how to push it in. How much was it from a sponsorship side? How much did you guys as Uplause have to start engaging the sponsors? And so now you can integrate, whether it be a Lexus or a Miller Lite or those kind of things into your systems that make it much easier for the digital teams or the sponsorship sales teams to sell your product, because all the fans' eyeballs are really consuming the big screen boards, and you're putting the sponsor message right in the middle. How much of that was really important over the last 3 years in trying to grow the business?
Yeah, it's like a vital part of this. I think it's the two sides of the equation. There is the value for the rights holder, whether that's team or league or the federation, in terms of just building their live event experience, the property from the fan point of view. But the other side is the brands and the sponsors, which of course, whatever they do in marketing, it's getting more focus on digital, social, gamification. So being able to offer them a tool which is truly social, very emotional, as you see it. I think it's a really big part of our value proposition, that we can offer the brands, in this case at the Madison Square Garden for the Lexus, a race game using their latest car model. So of course it's a perfect fit. So it plays a tremendous role in our business proposition.
And how's it gone? Like, I see you've also done it at a few sort of fan events and those kind of things. How's it gone in that, when we first spoke, a lot of it was pitched to, you were doing the ice hockey in Finland, and it was really suited to the boards in the middle. But now you're sort of opening up and doing it at baseball venues and at large festivals and things like that. Have you guys had to make any tweaks on the sort of the product that you're putting up on the screen to cater for those audiences?
Well, the product is, I think, we are always learning. You always want to, make a better product. Like I said, earlier, we're in the beginning where this can go. Different environments are, are a little bit different. I think, like in Asia, we work a lot in football, soccer there. I think in Asia, for example, people, they like more like an advanced game type of things, which can be a little bit more challenging. Or maybe in the USA, it's a little bit more about energy, just bringing a maximum energy to the venue. So there definitely are differences. I don't see too much difference whether we're talking about inside arena, outside arena. Of course, goes without saying, inside arenas typically, acoustic is really good. But that said, good big stadiums are perfect as well. Crowd is there to have fun, and it's a good platform to engage them. So yes, there is differences, but I think there is some underlying, behaviors for the people, which is that people want to participate, and if we throw them a game, nobody wants to lose. Whether it's the most trivial game you can ever play, we still don't want to lose. So we take the challenge.
So I don't know if you've most likely been following the NBA, and a few of the teams have had both the NBA and the NFL have both been making record crowd decibel noises and setting records for the Guinness Book of Records. I think the Sacramento Kings did it in the NBA and indoor arena, and I think the guys at the Seattle Seahawks have currently got the title in the outdoor arena. Is that something on on Uplause radar to say, well, hang on, we've got a system that will make these records go away? You'll have no doubt be clinching some of those records soon.
Yeah, I think first of all, of course we've been following that, and I think it's a great trend because it shows that what we've been doing is starting to happen, and yeah, I think with regards just the decibel meters, I think what we want to do there is a little bit more advanced, maybe next level. But that said, just like competing with these decibel meters is compelling. Like you see how fans react and wanna, I think it was Kansas City Chiefs, right, first being the leaders, then Seahawks taking over, and somebody else might take over at some point. So it's just again, it's the human nature that we want to compete. Even it's such a trivial thing is with regards to decibel meters.
And so where are you currently spending your time? I'm assuming that you're both in the US and Europe a fair bit of your time.
Yeah, myself, I'm mainly spending time in the North American market, where we are really starting to get good footprint. With the cases in New York, Rangers, Nick Mets been working in Florida area with the race, starting on West Coast next month, and then we did a big project with the NFL for the international series. So that's really for myself a big focus area. But that said, of course, Europe, Asia, it's those are important market for us as well. So there's a need for this type of engagement globally.
Oh, definitely. I mean, one of the big takeaways from the SEED conference in Kansas City this year is, fan engagement in stadium is still, one of the key deliverables that all teams are trying to do. Obviously, the issues around Wi-Fi and having social access is still a problem and is getting solved, but you still need to engage your fans. So if you can do things like activate those boards, and they are, in America they are getting bigger and bigger. I'd love to see. I'm sure you've got the Cowboys on your call list to see what Uplause can do on that massive screen. But it is engaging your fans and making that experience what we like to call developing FOMO, fear of missing out. You want those people to come away saying, well, hang on, live is better. I want to be at the live game. So it's not just the product on the field or on the court or on the ice. It is the whole experience, and that game entertainment is still a big part of what the sports product is.
No, I fully agree. I mean, it's that's what the industry is talking is how do we enhance the game experience in the stadiums, because we know that the TV broadcast is such a compelling product nowadays. So you gotta offer something more than just a game, which is of course the good old experience. And these new means is just a one tool to help the organizers to make sure that people actually want to come to the stadium more and more to see the live experience. And what I always like to say myself is that, because in the sport, there's no guarantees that you will be winning as a team, just purely the mathematics, some of the teams got to be losing. So at least you got to make sure that when the fans leave the stadium, they will feel like, wow, I had fun today. We lost, but I had fun. I'm going to come again. Even better if you win, but like I said, you can't do it all the time.
Exactly. It's wise advice. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. I hope that maybe we don't spend another 3 years till we talk again, and hopefully we can catch up when we're both in the same hemisphere or in the same country. Thank you very much for joining us. All the links to Uplause, that's Uplause with a U, UPLAUSE.com. You can check it, all that, and I'll have all the links to connect with Heikki, and again, I hope I'm getting your name right, in the show notes. But thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks, Sean. My pleasure.
Need help with your content? Book in for a content brainstorming session with Sports Geek now. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/work.
Thanks again to Heikki for joining me on the podcast. Check out Uplause. That's Uplause with a U. All the links will be in the show notes. And I've got to remember to turn my phone off. You reckon I would figure that out after doing 30-odd episodes of 30-odd podcasts? So a few things just to wrap up the show. Release tickets for the SB night at Honey Bar in Melbourne. Apologies to people who aren't in Melbourne and can't make it. We do have plans to do a few around the country, but we'll kick things off. We had a really good sports business networking night last January in conjunction with the guys at the Business of Sports and Russell Scobetti, and cheers Russell for inviting us last time. So I wanted to do a few more, but obviously an Achilles injury put a bit of a crimp on those plans, so I want to start it again this year. So it'll be the Tuesday the 21st of January at the Honey Bar. If you go to the show links, you'll see a link in the show notes to get a ticket. So we had about 80 to 90, I think, there last year. It was a really good night. So we're going to do a bit of Q&A with a few people who are in attendance, but mainly it's going to be a networking night. Let everyone catch up for the start of the year and get stuck into 2014 good and proper. Again, if you're on my mailing list, you will get that email out later today. So go to sportsgeekhq.com/sign up now. You'll also get an invite there. Okay, that's the wind-up clock. That tells me to dedicate this episode 31. A few nominations from an Australian sports scene point of view. Ron Barassi is a famed AFL, or in that case VFL, footballer from Melbourne and Carlton, and also Greg Maddux, the Braves pitcher. But I had to go with Reggie Miller from the Indiana Pacers. I remember the Reggie destroying the Knicks, and it's a great 30 for 30 if you haven't seen it, where he scores that 8 points in 9 seconds. So this episode is dedicated to Reggie Miller. All the show notes are at sportsgeekhq.com/31. For this social media post of the week, I'm going to be a tad indulgent. I've been working with the SCG this week, helping them with social media around the pink test. And so the social media post of the week is actually one that I posted, but it was trolling the ego of a celebrity, in this case CNN host Piers Morgan. The Brit has been talking a lot of trash on Twitter over the summer, in so much that he goated and trolled the whole Australian community, and eventually he got his own back when former Australian fast bowler Brett Lee bowled to him in the nets and effectively hit him 5 or 6 times. It was pretty brutal. I'll put a link to the video in the show notes. If you're not a fan of Piers Morgan, you'll definitely like seeing a few 150 km an hour thunderbolts coming in from Brett Lee into his ribs. He did do a tweet with a picture of him with a former Australian captain and a former Australian spin bowler, and said, "Here's two great batsmen and Stuart McGill." So as the SCG, we trolled him back, saying, "Talk like that will get Binger onto you." And Piers liked that one. He was kind enough to retweet that to his 4 million followers. So a little bit of a success there, just trolling the celebrity ego. The other thing is, just on custom timelines, have you used them yet? Have a look at them. Twitter are now really pushing custom timelines. I'll put a link in the show notes to how Twitter have used them in their recap of the Ashes. It might be a way for you to recap, tweets of the game, like that kind of thing. I know a lot of people are using Storify for that, and it does offer multiple platforms. But obviously this is what Twitter is pushing. You can build them out of TweetDeck and then publish them on your site. So have a look. I've included my tweets of 2013, courtesy of Visify, using custom timelines on the show notes here, link to that. So have a look at it. Sounds of the game. Again, it's going to come from the cricket, from the pink test. This is the fans from Australia, obviously, after the Aussies knocked over the English in just 3 days. And for the people listening in America, it was a 5-day test match. And to the people listening in England, please enjoy. Thanks again for all your support. I really do appreciate the iTunes reviews, the posts on LinkedIn, the tweets about the show. You can go to sportsgeekhq.com/SGP for all the episodes. There'll be 31 there. You can also get links to all the fabulous guests that I've had on, including Larry, Heikki and Deb Spillane, who are on today's show. Closing 2 cents, and this pretty much comes from my experience watching everything from the SCG. Don't sleep on Instagram. It might not drive traffic, but it helps you and your fans tell your story.
Please leave a review on iTunes. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes. Find all Sports Geek podcasts at sportsgeekhq.com/SGP. Want to maximize returns from your digital team? Contact Sports Geek about content and commercialization workshop. Thanks for listening to the Sports Geek Podcast.